Hey everyone. So today I want to take a look at Iranian regime media on one particular topic that they seem hyper focused on in these last few days. And if you've been watching this channel, you know that we do a lot of that looking at Iranian regime media. It is extremely revealing. And what we're going to see is that they seem to be having a problem with national unity and seem to be in a panic about it. We can tell because in a matter of just a couple of days, they are telling people over and over again how unified they actually are. We're going to take a look at a collection of stories from two regime outlets, the two that I usually look at, Wana and Tasnim. And every single one of them is about the same thing: Iranian national unity. The enemy is frustrated by it. The supreme leader is stressing it. 30 million people have signed up to prove how unified Iran is. The president and the parliament speaker even posted the exact same tweet 1 minute apart to confirm how unified they are. These are the stories we're going to look at. They're all one theme. And to sum up what we're going to do in this video, I would say the theme is "The lady doth protest too much." Let's get right into it. So first, in Tasnim, we have this story right here. Wait, let me just make this bigger for you so everyone can see better. We'll keep it like that for the rest of the video. And we have this article in Tasnim. Enemy frustrated by Iran's unity, top judge. So this is from yesterday. Enemy frustrated by Iran's unity. Wow. Iran's judiciary chief, Gholam Hossein Mohsen Ejei, said national unity and the unified voice of the Iranian people have left the enemy frustrated and helpless, stressing that cohesion remains a strong barrier against hostile efforts. In comments at a meeting with a number of judicial officials, Mohsen Ejei said the country's unity has thwarted enemy attempts to achieve through division what it failed to accomplish through aggression, war, and negotiations. He warned that the enemy is seeking to realize its unachieved objectives by creating division and discord within Iranian society, but described such efforts as futile. The judiciary chief emphasized that national unity serves as a strong and solid barrier against hostile actions, adding that in full adherence to the guidelines of the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Mujtaba Khamenei, the path toward a stronger Iran passes through unity among different segments of society. In the cognitive war launched by the enemy, the Islamic Republic had been portrayed as isolated and lacking popular support, he said, noting that U.S.-Israeli attacks on certain centers were based on such miscalculations. He added that the enemy fell into the trap of its own miscalculations stemming from that cognitive warfare. So it's not going to work, oh enemy. We are totally unified. Okay, Iran's judiciary chief is telling us that the enemy, meaning the U.S. and Israel, has been left frustrated and helpless by Iranian unity, right? The enemy tried aggression, tried war, tried negotiations. All of it failed because of Iranian cohesion. Now, notice what he's actually admitting here. He's admitting that the enemy's strategy was to create division, which means from their perspective, they believe or fear division. You don't warn against a strategy that isn't working. You don't convene judicial officials to talk about the danger of internal fracture unless internal fracture is something you're actually worried about. But it gets better. Let's take a look at the next piece. So this is from Wana. And we have Iran's supreme leader stresses national unity as reactions to Trump's controversial post intensify. Amid rising tensions and political reactions, the social media account associated with Iran's supreme leader has published a message emphasizing the critical role of national unity in confronting external pressure. The post states, in light of the remarkable unity formed among our compatriots, a fracture has appeared within the enemy. By practically appreciating this blessing, our cohesion will become even stronger and more unbreakable, and our enemies will grow weaker and more humiliated. It also warns against psychological and media operations targeting public opinion. Quote, the enemy's media operations aimed at the minds and psyche of the people seek to undermine national unity and security. We must not allow this malicious objective to be realized through our own negligence. This message comes as Iran's political environment reacts to recent remarks by Donald Trump. He reposted a statement by an American commentator that included a highly controversial claim suggesting that if there are two groups in Iran, those who support a deal and those who oppose it, quote, those who oppose the deal should be eliminated. The post quickly drew widespread criticism inside Iran. In response, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, Speaker of the Parliament, rejected political labeling and stressed that terms such as hardliner and moderate have no place in Iran's political landscape. He described the unity between the people and the government as ironclad. Similarly, Gholam Hossein Mohsen Ejei, head of the judiciary, dismissed such divisions as fabricated, emphasizing that all political currents operate within a unified framework. He also warned that any hostile actions would have consequences. That's a strange thing to say. Who's he referring to there? He's talking about the unity issue. Hostile actions by who will have consequences? Is that a message to people who might be sowing division? At the executive level, Masoud Pezeshkian underscored the importance of national solidarity and a shared path forward, aligning with broader official messaging that highlights cohesion in the face of external pressure. Aligning with a broader official messaging that highlights cohesion. Official messaging is highlighting the unity and cohesion. Observers view the alignment between the leader's message and coordinated statements by senior officials as a clear attempt to reinforce a narrative of unity. This is a very revealing sentence. Look at this. They're admitting it. They're admitting that this is just that they're working hard to project this. Observers view the alignment between the leader's message and the coordinated statements as a clear attempt to reinforce a narrative of unity, countering external claims of internal division. Quite something, right? So we have the supreme leader himself, and this piece gives us the context for why all of this is happening right now. Trump had reposted a statement suggesting that Iranians who oppose a nuclear deal should, quote, be eliminated, right? That landed, that was a bombshell in Tehran. They've been talking about it. There's a whole bunch of stories talking about that tweet because it spoke directly to the actual fracture that's going on. What Trump was talking about is that we know that there are people in the regime who want to make a deal and people who don't want to make a deal. J.D. Vance said at the end of the first failed day of negotiations that the Americans got the sense that the people they were talking to didn't even have the authority to make a deal. We've also seen mixed messaging coming out of the regime. There are people inside the Iranian political system who want a deal badly enough to make concessions, and there are people who would rather see the whole thing burn than accept terms that amount to surrender. Okay, and that tension is real, and we know about it. And Trump's post just said it out loud. Now, but I will remind you what I've been saying since before the war. What the regime fears the most is looking fractured and weak to their own people. The number one threat to them is not the Americans, not the Israelis. It is their own people sensing that they're weak and then rising up and bringing down the regime. That's what they fear most, because to them, victory in this war means that they are still in power when it's all said and done. So they're terrified. That's why this unity thing is so important to them. It's not about the negotiations with America. It's important to them because showing weakness to their own people is the greatest threat. So what do? So every major official, the supreme leader, the judiciary chief, the parliament speaker, the president, they all come out within hours and say in unison, there's no split. We're unified. We're all one. The terms hardliner and moderate have no place in our political landscape, which is, of course, exactly what a split we would expect it to look from the outside. And I want to show you the most concrete evidence of this because it's right here, and it's kind of like, it's almost comical here. So Mario Naufal posted this. Ghalibaf and Pezeshkian posted the identical tweet 1 minute apart. You check it out. So here's both Ghalibaf and Pezeshkian. One of them tweeted this at 12:53 p.m. The other one at 12:54 p.m. And they both say, in Iran, there are no radicals or moderates. We are all Iranian and revolutionary. And with the iron unity of the nation and government, with complete obedience to the supreme leader of the revolution, we will make the aggressor criminal, regret his actions. Excuse me. One God, one nation, one leader, one path, the path being the path to the victory of our dear Iran, more precious than life. Identical word for word tweets by Pesach and Galibaf. These are the two guys who are reportedly the ones who want to make a deal with the Americans and are being sidelined now. So that's pretty revealing, right? And those are on the same day. They were published on the same day that the supreme leader, who no one's seen since he got blown up, and he's reportedly still alive, who knows? But they're on the same day that this supreme leader message that we mentioned was put out, right? So you have Pezeshkian, and he's, the president, right? Understood to be the most moderate, pragmatic figure in the current constellation. And then you have Galibaf, the former IRGC commander, who's the parliament speaker. Okay, 1 minute apart, identical message. So someone at the top of the regime handed these two men, or whoever controls their social media accounts, the same text, and they were told to post it. So you have the moderate Pezeshkian and the hardliner Galibaf, who are posting the identical message, and that's supposed to demonstrate unity. But instead, what it really demonstrates is a very like what I said, the lady doth protest too much. It's a little bit over the top, that it's obviously manufactured unity. But now let's take a look at what's going on inside Iran, where they're trying to, manufacture this unity on a bigger scale. And by manufacture, I really mean that. So this is an older story from about 3 weeks ago. Over 10 million Iranians join Jan-Fada campaign amid war. As the U.S.-Israel coalition war against Iran enters its 6th week, more than 10 million people have joined the grassroots campaign Jan-Fada for Iran. This is a campaign that the regime has been running for the last month in Iran, well, supposedly. The term Jan-Fada literally means devoted to sacrifice, reflecting the campaign's focus on voluntary participation in defending the country against external threats. This rapid mobilization signals a rare wave of mass social engagement, particularly in light of concerns about a potential ground invasion. According to the official data, over 10.9 million individuals have registered on the platform Jan-Fada.ir to participate in what is described as direct defense, with organizers saying the number continues to rise moment by moment. The campaign Jan-Fada was launched alongside U.S. and Israeli threats, targeting Iran's coasts, islands, and borders, aiming both to counter these risks and to demonstrate public readiness to defend the country. It has emerged amid one of the most intense regional conflicts in recent years. The war began February 28th. Talks about the attacks and how the attacks ended up killing the supreme leader. Talks about the war a little bit. Under these conditions, the Jan-Fada campaign has rapidly evolved from an online initiative into a broader socio-political phenomenon. Emerging from public calls for direct participation in national defense, it is now framed as a symbol of collective readiness against external threats, with participation reported across diverse segments of society. So there's this massive campaign, and it's sweeping the country, and everyone is rallying around it and becoming more patriotic and stepping up to the plate to defend Iran against the attackers. According to this, they have 10.9 million people have signed up already, and that's 3 weeks ago. Senior officials have also backed the campaign. Oh, wonderful. Judiciary chief also joined, saying he did so in allegiance to Iran's martyred leader. Army commander Amir Hatami warned that if the enemy launches a ground operation, not a single one of its forces should survive, adding that the army sees itself as devoted to those who sacrifice for Iran. Now, why'd they throw that in there? So they threw that in there because the army is not the IRGC. So if you're looking, so they're trying to project unity by saying that not only did the judiciary chief, that's the imam guy that we saw before, this guy, but it's also the army chief. So it's like, this is crossing all sectors of society. And then we have, and Galibaf also, he wrote that if you encroach upon our home, you will face the entire family. There you go, the entire family. We're so unified. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson also drew a historical parallel, saying during the war with Saddam, they claimed Tehran would fall within a week. Yet the war lasted 8 years. We are a resilient nation, and we will continue until our enemies regret their actions. He added that all Iranians are prepared to sacrifice, stressing that what matters is Iran as a great nation and civilization, not individual lives. Historically, the scale of this mobilization is notable. During the 8-year Iran-Iraq war, around 2 million volunteers joined the front lines, roughly 5 to 6% of the population at the time. In contrast, more than 10 million registrations in the Jan-Fada campaign within days amount to over 11% of Iran's current population, reflecting both the speed and scale of today's response. Beyond the numbers, analysts see the campaign as a sign of social convergence in times of crisis, with territorial integrity emerging as a shared priority, even among groups with differing views. Wow, the people of Iran are unifying. Look at that. Increased public presence and support of the armed forces, repeated calls for direct involvement in defense. Overall, as the war's trajectory remains uncertain and the prospect of a ground invasion persists, the Jan-Fada campaign has moved beyond an online initiative to become a significant indicator of Iran's domestic response, one that could shape both the military and political dynamics of the conflict if it continues. Now, why am I bringing you a story from 3 weeks ago? We'll get to that in a moment. But first, I need to explain what the Jan-Fada campaign actually is. Jan-Fada literally means, as it said, devoted to sacrifice. Okay, it's an online registration campaign. You go to a website, janfada.ir, and you sign up to volunteer for national defense. Okay, so the regime is presenting this as a massive, spontaneous, grassroots mobilization, proof that there's popular support for the republic, for the regime. Now let's think about this. The article compares it to the Iran-Iraq war. Right? It said that 2 million Iranians volunteered, 5 to 6% of the population, and it says that Jan-Fada, with 10 million registrations in less than a week. Remember that the internet is cut off in Iran, but apparently all these Iranians are registering online. And that's over 11% of Iran's population, current population, apparently registered for this in a week. But hold on. Iran's total population is somewhere between 85 and 90 million. And in a moment, we're going to read that the number has already jumped significantly. Let's take a look. And this is where things get really comical. This is from yesterday. Jan-Fada reaches 30 million. Danish researcher praises the video. What is this? So take a look at this story. This is wild. As the Jan-Fada campaign surpassed 30 million registrations, an animated video produced in Iran depicting the coordination between the battlefield, diplomacy, and the street has drawn attention from international users and analysts. The video, created using artificial intelligence technology, was released as part of the campaign's media narrative and quickly spread across social media platforms. In one notable reaction, Ronnie, known as Ronnie the Dane, a researcher specializing in Yemen, described the piece as a rare example among AI-generated productions. Writing on X, he said, "One of the strongest uses of generative AI in video I've ever seen. Clean, purposeful, and well-crafted, unlike the messy and typical outputs of this technology." He added, referring to the content of the video, quote, "A promotional piece for Iran's Jan-Fada campaign, which claims that 30 million people have registered as volunteers for national defense." And then it talks about why the Jan-Fada campaign was launched, to show the readiness, to demonstrate the readiness of the Iranian public to play an active role. It emerged following U.S. and Israeli strikes, and according to published figures, more than 30 million people have registered so far. Wow. And then it gives the historical perspective, comparing it to Iran and Iraq, and that mentions that it represents over 30% of Iran's approximately 90 million population. Wow. What a successful campaign. Unbelievable, right? 30 million people out of 85 to 90 million. More than 1 in 3 Iranians supposedly registered to sacrifice themselves for the Iranian Republic. Now, I want to pause on one detail here because it perfectly captures where the regime actually is right now in terms of its international standing. 30 million registrations, 1/3 of the entire country, apparently is registered for this campaign. And the external validation in this story that they focus on is, for this crazy claim that 1/3 of the Iranian people registered for this, is a Danish researcher who covers Yemen and complimented them on the AI generated promotional video, saying that it was well made. Okay? A Danish Yemen researcher is their international credibility witness for 30 million volunteers. Now, look, I'm not saying that no Iranians registered for this. The government controls the internet. The platform is a government website where there can be consequences for not participating. Who knows? And they could generate registration numbers. That's not even the point. Let me talk about why this is so absurd. In I think 2021, I don't remember exactly when the story was. It was recent. It was in the last few years. There was a news item that made the rounds. You could look it up. That stated, and I've talked about it in some other videos, that there was this leading Iranian religious figure who was talking to a group of what you call seminarians. They were people who were studying to become imams. And he told them, I don't think he expected this to make it out to Western media, but he told them, trying to inspire them to their mission to spread Islam among the population, that of the 75,000 mosques in Iran, 50,000 of them had closed because no one was showing up. The people of Iran have rejected Islam on a massive scale. That we know. Again, this is coming from them. They know this. They've admitted this. So besides what we know about the mass protests and all that, think of what they're saying now. They're saying that 30 million of a total population of 85 to 90 million, that includes small children, that includes elderly people. We're saying that 30 million people signed up to defend the nation. Okay, that they want us to believe that they've done 15 times the number of people who volunteered for the Iran-Iraq war. In the middle of a war they're losing on the battlefield. Okay, this is a ridiculous propaganda operation. And the fact that the best outside endorsement they could find is a Danish researcher about Yemen praising the video production quality of their AI video tells you everything you need to know. So let's come back to where we started. Let's just sum this up. Multiple stories over 2 days. One theme: we are unified. The enemy has failed. 30 million people stand ready to sacrifice themselves for the Iranian Republic. The president and the parliament speaker posting the same tweet, the same words, 60 seconds apart. And here's the thing. Real unity, if they were actually unified, they wouldn't be doing all this. You don't need a government website where you click to register your sacrifice. Okay? What we're watching is that the regime is under incredible pressure. The military pressure, the economic pressure, the internal pressure. They're fracturing, they're falling apart. They know they've lost the people, and they're trying to project confidence. So when you read these outlets, you can see it's so transparent. And that's why I said it's so valuable to read Iranian state media. This is all very, very good news. I can't stress this enough. The blockade is working. The strategy that Trump is implementing is working. They are cracking. We have moved from news items in the early weeks of the war. If you've been watching this channel, you saw this. In the early weeks of the war, the news items on these regime outlets were all about how much damage they were causing to the Israelis, how strong they are, how much damage they're causing to the Americans. It was a lot of tough talk. And we've moved from that type of tough talk to this very defensive sounding talk. Oh, we're very unified. We're still unified. Oh, we figured Trump out. they don't have the cards anymore, and they're starting to show it. So again, the lady doth protest too much. She's protesting in real time right in front of us. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Please make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Please make sure that you go into the description of this video and subscribe to our newsletters, Israel 365 News and Israel 365 Action. And please share this. This kind of media analysis is something I think is really important, and not enough people are doing it in the English language. So there you go. God bless.